Welcome to Hot Takes, brought to you by 50cupstea.com, where united we sip, discuss, and learn. Join us as we dive into the hottest takes on culture, business trends, and the threads that bind us. Get ready for inspiring stories, candid conversations, and a fresh perspective on living a healthy, fulfilled life. Grab your cup and tune in. Let's get started.
Hello, everybody. It is time for the 50 Cups Hot Takes with the one and only author, entrepreneur, very awesome guy, Jim Baker. How are you, Jim?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're looking good today.
Well, thank you. I dressed up for you because you deserve that kind of respect. You really do. Jim also owns the 50 Cup Tea Company. And every week, one of the reasons I show up is he brings another delicious canter of tea. Did you do so again today?
I did.
Oh, I can't
Today,
wait. What is it?
We've been doing cold tea or iced tea.
Yeah.
The chilled tea, I guess, because I don't bring the ice into the studio. But today, thought we'd change it up and go with a little hot Earl Grey organic tea.
Okay.
Now, the trick is going to be able to pour out of a Yeti. I don't know if those of you that actually listen to this podcast have actually tried to pour something out of a Yeti before, but they haven't perfected that technology yet. So I may splash a little bit, but I'm going to try to do my best and also at the same time not burn my fingers. Hopefully you'll see the robust color and eventually flavor and aroma of.
Oh, look at that. Well done, sir. Well done.
That's the little red color
Well,
to it.
thank you.
You want it?
Ooh, that does look nice. Ooh, it is warm.
Why you might want to ask why I chose hot tea today.
Jim, why did you choose hot tea today?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because it's about 85 degrees and 150%
It is warm in here.
humidity here. But I don't know. It's Tuesday, and sometimes it just tastes good and feels good to have a nice, soothing, hot cup of tea. So,
fall's right around the corner. It's going to get chilly here soon, I hope.
Yes.
What a wonderful addition to your life, a little cup of warm tea. Does this help me in any way? All your teas you sell have some kind of upside to your health.
Yes.
Was my point.
Yes.
Badly.
Well, obviously it has a little caffeine in it, so it's going to give you a little bit of energy. And
that's good.
It also have a lot of tannins and some other things in there. And yeah, whatever I serve you is never going to be bad for you.
That's right. That's why I like hanging with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never fear.
But before you know it, you're going to look like you're 10 years old.
I'm going to have to get a whole case of that stuff then. Speaking of which, your hot takes, I sometimes they're obvious. They're somewhat obvious, and I can kind of get a sense of where you're going to go. But the list I saw today really kind of threw me into what the heck does Jim want to talk about today? If you don't mind, I'll start with the first one, because nobody really talks about seed oils. Everybody wants to, I'm sure. But Jim, what about seed oils?
So I don't know if I'm not going to get political, but RFK Jr. has been talking a lot about health and especially children's health and the toxins in our environment and everything else over the last, years and years. And in addition to that, I think a few weeks ago, there was a MAHA, Make America Healthy Again forum in Washington, D.C. And there are some specific people that Casey and Callie, for example, and I think Callie is she's a medical doctor out of Stanford University, and they talk a lot about the unhealthy aspects of our food supply, and mostly around the processed foods, et cetera, et cetera. But the primary culprit over the last, 10, 15 years has been the widely introduction of seed oils, into our food supply. So basically, there's 8 seed oils, all right? And they're called, in some cases, the people will call them the hateful 8. There's the most popular one, which is canola oil.
I've heard of that.
Then you have the famous corn oil.
Yes.
Then you have cottonseed oil. You have grapeseed oil. You have soybean oil. You have sunflower oil. You have rice bran oil. And then, of course, you have peanut oil as well. And on the surface, a lot of these labels sound relatively healthy, right?
Yes, they do.
Like, for example, sunflowers are supposed to be good for you, right? Rice, been a starch forever, has some positive health properties. Peanuts, supposed to be great for you as well. The problem is that they highly process these seed oils. So the number one is canola. That's used in a lot of different things. And the reason why they use seed oils is because you can cook at a very high temperature without it burning. Olive oil, not so much. Butter, a little bit less. Other oils, a little bit less. So they're efficient, which means that you can, yes, generate more profit because you can use less oil, let's say, to cook and or to preserve. In this case, it's also used as a preservative, in some of the ingredients that are part of your typical boxed processed food categories.
Oh, this sounds all great. What's the problem, Jim?
So canola oil, right?
Mhm.
So it's actually a real live plant. It's picked and then it's processed. And as you go through the processing, it's separated from its seeds, from its other things. And then the beauty of our market-driven economy is that they're taking certain things that are separated out to make canola oil, and they're reselling it as farm stock, for example, animal stock, feed, and other things. But eventually it goes through this process where it's separated, it's pressed, and then it's heated, it's cleansed, bleached in this case. And at the end of the day, you have this vat full of canola oil where it's lost all of its nutrients. And in addition to that, it's incorporated additional properties during the process, such as cleaning agents, et cetera, which are toxic. And now they're part of this oil that's actually going to be used for you to cook your food in and or for you to mass produce your food in, that it eventually finds its way into the grocery stores.
So what you're saying then, the process of extracting the oil itself introduces chemicals?
It introduces chemicals, and they're also considered they're omega-6 trans fats as opposed to omega-3s.
Explain that if you wouldn't.
So omega-3s everybody loves the omega-3s. They're great for heart health. They're great for your body. Olive oil, for example, some of the animal fats, some of the other, they're not processed fats. It's probably the best way to describe it.
Okay.
Beef tallow, for example. But the omega-6s, they're highly processed. So therefore, they have a very high inflammatory property to them. So because you're stripping out all the nutrients, you're mass producing this stuff, and then it's basically incorporated in everything in life. So the hot take on this whole thing is I'm having a hard time escaping eating healthy foods that aren't really healthy for you because they have been processed with seed oils. So the American Heart Association will tell you, hey, fish oil, eat nuts, eat natural snacks, nuts, cashews, almonds, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you literally go read the ingredients on the major brands of nuts in the grocery store, they are either processed in peanut oil, seed oil, they are processed in sunflower oil, seed oil, or they're processed in cottonseed oil, seed oil. So basically, you're supposed to be getting this healthy snack where the nut itself is actually pretty good for you,
Right.
but it's been cooked, roasted in these seed oils. And what they're telling you is that you really want to be in a position as a human to have a 2-to-1 ratio between omega-6s and omega-3s, right?
All right.
The problem is because you don't know what you're eating, even if you're trying to eat healthy, and they're loaded with these seed oils, your actual ratio could be anywhere from 15 to 20 to 1 each day.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, you're ingesting industrialized processed oils that have no nutritional value to you, are increasing your inflammation, and anybody will tell you the main cause of heart disease is inflammation. So the goal for your body is to reduce the inflammation, not to increase the inflammation. But because these are not hidden, they're actually they tell you what's in there, but they're actually in every single piece of processed food that we eat, that at the end of the day, your ratios are skyrocketing. Now, some of the heart websites that you would go on will tell you that it's not necessarily the seed oil itself. It's the fact that it's the seed oil coupled with the processed food, and therefore you should not eat the processed food. I would argue that if I'm going to go ahead and eat a bag of cashews every single day, as unprocessed food, but it's been roasted in a seed oil, then I'm going to still hit those same ratios that I would get if I ate a Ritz cracker, for example, or if I ate a bowl of cereal.
I mean, that's an excellent point. And I've been conditioned to look at those labels. And if I were to see that, I would think, well, that's healthy. Because, I don't do the right research that you do, but I mean, I think society generally is. They go, well, nuts are healthy. Seed oil is healthy. And I never really thought about it, how often your body's being introduced to that. I mean, whether you go, I guess, anywhere, right? A restaurant, maybe even your own house, you're using seed oil maybe instead of butter to cook.
Yeah. And, potato chips, for example, you might see a brand that says organic potatoes, salt, and, sunflower, cottonseed, peanut, whatever that potatoes cooked in.
Well, how do you avoid that, though?
Well, you got to buy potato chips if you love potato chips. You got to buy ones that are cooked in avocado or olive oil.
Okay.
But very few brands that are out there that you can choose from. And on top of that, it's going to cost you some extra money, right?
Ah.
So, for example, I was on Instagram once a month. I go on just to check my 50 cup stuff. And like anybody though, you kind of you start scrolling for a little bit. And I noticed that there was I'm not going to name the brand, but there's a new potato chip that's out there. And there's 3 ingredients. There's potatoes, organic, salt, and beef tallow. So they're cooked in tallow, which is no seed oil. And I'm saying, wow, we finally got a chip that's going to work.
Yeah.
So for 4 to 5 ounces of 2 bags, 4 to 5 ounces of these potato chips, $50.
Are you kidding me?
$50
For potato chips? To sit down to watch a football game and eat potato chips and $50?
So,
well, that's a deterrent.
And so
Don't you think?
Other side hot take of the seed oil hot take is that in order to avoid the seed oils, it's going to cost you more money. And who in this country, other than the elites, are going to be able to afford, this type of thing? So it goes back to the ultimate hot take is that if we truly care about our people, whether you're making $10,000 a year or $10 million a year, the people on the bottom rung are going to they have to eat these foods that are, no matter how they're promoted, are simply not good for you because they're loaded with these seed oils.
Which does explain the obesity issue when it comes to those on the lower end of the
autoimmunes, obesity, the whole works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, correct.
Well, is it the process itself of this tallow? Does it really cost that much, or is it just a lack of competition? I mean, if more companies said, hey, listen, there's a market out there. There's a ton of gyms out there paying attention. Would that bring the price down?
I mean, eventually it could. I mean, tallow, obviously, it's a beef byproduct, right? So if you're processing, meat, then you're certainly going to have the tallow. Problem is there's probably no market for it. So therefore, very few people do it. So, there's probably not a lot of demand for it, and there's very limited supply. So and then this is the, new company probably trying to capture a specific market because it's going to be way better for you than the typical potato chip that's cooked in seed oil. Then sure, they're going to get a premium for it at this point in time.
Well, hats off to you and Robert Kennedy too, who's really no, I'm serious. There's a lot of people who initially thought he was kind of crazy about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And lo and behold, you're finding that our population is getting less healthy. Our life expectancy is declining. And I'm not going to blame it all on seed oil, but it is part of the problem, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like we talked about last podcast. I think the intentions are maybe good because, they've technology and through, manufacturing practices, they found a way to mass produce food to keep it fresher longer, to make it taste better, to make it more moist, but there's always a downside to that. And it just goes back to ultimately, you're moving away from this local food supply process to this basically centralized, global, network of food, which then rolls into our casual dining and our restaurants in general. So there's an app out there and there's many apps, by the way, but this one I'm using right now, and you get a 7-day free trial and then you got to pay after that. So I'm probably just going to use it for 7 days because I find the app a little bit difficult to navigate,
Yeah.
but it's very informative. It's called SOS, right? And basically,
What will it do?
it gives you a map of where you're located, and then it tells you based on the criteria you put in, so I put in, I want organic. I put in no seed oils. They ask if you're gluten-free, not gluten-free, et cetera, et cetera. Go through maybe 7 or 8 different answers to questions. But I prefer not gluten, but I can eat gluten, so it's not a big deal. But I put in gluten just for the heck of it to see what will come up, right?
Right.
So I enjoy Chipotle every once in a while, right? I think it's a healthy, casual dining, fast food option compared to Wendy's or McDonald's or Bojangles or whatever. Well, I put in old Chipotle in the SOS, and I got the skull and crossbones and the deep red, shameful dining, as I put it, experience. So, go there at your own risk, so to speak. And I was crushed. So for the heck of it, I said, well, let's see what Chick-fil-A, looks like. Same thing, shameful dining.
No, not Chick-fil-A, Jim.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I didn't want to go to McDonald's because I'm sure that's going to be terrible. Now, I will say in the old days, in the 80s, up until I think maybe mid 80s, French fries were cooked. That's why they tasted so good. They were cooked in tallow. Animal
I didn't
fat.
know that.
Yeah. And then the American Heart Association and the health community in general, now that I'm older, you always just follow the money now.
Right.
But they basically forced McDonald's to cook their French fries in vegetable oil. So basically they're cooked in seed oil now. And they tried to mimic the taste of the previously cooked French fries in beef. So not only is it cooked in seed oil, but there's probably also a lot of flavonoids that are put in to make sure it tastes similar to what it was before.
This is crazy. Isn't the Heart Association a group of people wanting to keep your heart healthy?
Sure.
Okay.
But I'm not disparaging them.
I'm confused. You
I'm
can
not
see my
disparaging them.
confusion.
But
No.
if all of us have healthy hearts, then we don't need the American Heart Association anymore.
That is so true.
Right. So maybe there's incentive to, I don't know. I don't want to get banned by YouTube. So I just, simply say,
but
if some of these diseases go away, we don't need these associations anymore.
well, that's true. And that would be a good thing. I would think that's what they're striving for, but probably not. I don't know who policed this. I mean, if you didn't do it, and we did this podcast, I wouldn't know this stuff. And we've already talked about the FDA and how confused they may be in regarding how they grade certain drugs and foods. This is very difficult for a person like me, Jim, who's, well, you look at me, I'm not living as healthy as I should, but if I wanted to, it's a very difficult thing to do. It really is.
Well,
I guess you have to be disciplined.
Well, yeah, true. We'll get to that in a second. But I think the only piece of advice I probably would give everybody, which I'm giving to myself as well, is that it's almost you can't avoid this stuff unless you literally eat every single meal at home. And
Even then.
And well, you can't eat anything out of a box or a bag. So, I mean, you literally have to go to the grocery store, shop on the outside edges, really look at all the ingredients. But if you're going to buy vegetables, you're going to buy an actual potato with no pesticides in it, good luck. But you could probably find one that has a little bit of pesticide in it because it's organic, but you never know. The pesticide could blow through the air from the one farm down the street next to it. It's in the soil, whatever. But there's only so much you can do as a human.
Right.
But, other than that, I mean, in my 50 cups days of having retail, we also serve food. And I know where we got our food from. We try to go as healthy as possible, but it's coming in a box from a food supplier, and it's coming in a truck. And, there's fresh ingredients within that box, but it's packed in plastic and everything else. You're going to get seed oils no matter where you go to dine. I mean, that's the bottom line. So whether SOS isn't your app, but there are other apps out there. And if you really are serious about it, then, try to pick your restaurant that's got less seed oils than others. But the only way you can truly avoid it is if you, just don't eat out and cook from home.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there was a time that our science, maybe there wasn't a time, and I just believe there was a time that science would provide the roadmap. They would test these things and they would let you know. And that doesn't seem to be happening at all.
Yeah, well, what do they want the scientists to do? If I'm a food company, I want the scientists to figure out technology where I can feed as many people as possible, generate as much revenue as possible, and generate as much profit as possible, right? So if that's the goal, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to figure that out. If my intention is, if I'm the FDA, for example, or if I'm the government, hey, we need healthy people in our country because if you're unhealthy, I can't recruit for the Army, the military. I can't get people to come work for my big bloated federal government at some point in time because they're going to cost me too much money because they're going to be on insurance and everything else. So if the directive is go get us healthy again, then they'll do that because scientists are smart. But it all depends on what they're being tasked to do and how much money they're going to get paid and what the outcomes are going to be down the road.
That is so true. Did you see I don't mean to go off point, but I think it's related. There was scientists at Stanford, one of those elite, very smart schools. They ate eggs, 20 eggs a day for a month. Did you see that article?
I haven't.
The result was, what do you think happened to his cholesterol?
Probably went down.
It did go down quite a bit, actually, 20%. Compared to what you have heard about eggs, I guess the point is, you really have to think it upon yourself because there's nobody going to do it for you. And
that's a great point too, because I don't remember the 90s.
Oh yeah,
you were terrified to eat an egg.
You couldn't eat eggs.
I mean, you thought your heart would blow up if you
right out of your
looked at an
chest.
egg.
Yeah.
So
cup of coffee and eggs, and man, you were dead, right? In a week.
Meanwhile, I had a friend whose father lived to be, I think, 88, and every day when we were growing up, he would have bacon and eggs for breakfast. And I'm thinking, well, how come that guy's still alive? And I'm like starving myself to death. I'll eat 2 eggs a week. I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, the older you get, I think it's only natural you begin to really think about health. Maybe when you're younger, it's although you have a different group of people coming up now, they are more health conscious. But so it's good that you bring these things up and that there are apps and people are at least trying.
Yeah, two more quick points on this as we move on. But so I am like I said, I love nuts, peanuts, cashews, for example. You got to go dry roasted. You can't go just buy regular nuts. You got to buy them dry roasted. Then you got to look at the ingredients because some of the companies will also add stuff in the dry roasting ingredient list as well. So just be careful, but they are out there. But you want dry or you want raw. You don't want anything that's been cooked. And the second thing is, I did have one listener reach out to me afterwards. He's got kids in elementary school. And he said, man, I listened to you. I cannot believe what my kids were eating and their hot lunches. And since then, we no longer allow them to eat lunch in the school. So believe it or not, we do have one listener we've actually been able to make a change.
That's great. And you've actually reached out and there has been change that can make you feel good.
Here's a hot take on some 50 Cups tea.
Our detox tea detoxes your body through its carefully crafted ingredients. It contains ginger, which detoxes the body of intestinal gases and cramping, nettle leaf, which stimulates kidney function to eliminate toxins from the body, dandelion root, which stimulates the detox of the kidneys and liver as well as better digestion, burdock root, which purifies blood from heavy metals, milk thistle, which helps to stop liver damage, lemongrass, which soothes the stomach, cinnamon bark, which regulates blood sugar levels, lemon myrtle, which speeds up the breakdown of food, and dried lemon, which helps to protect your liver function.
Visit 50cupstea.com to find out more.
You want to talk about discipline now? Something that I think is an acquired quality and what it means.
Yeah, so I didn't make up this phrase, but I think it was Jocko Willink, who was a Marine commander who now has a podcast. He was on Joe Rogan years ago, and he wrote a leadership book, and he talked about discipline equals freedom. And when I heard that phrase, it struck me. And, and as he explained it a little bit more, and as I thought about it, post-listening, I realized that if you have discipline in your life, you therefore then have freedom, which means you have more choices. So 2 weeks ago, I'm in Colorado and I had an opportunity to do a 14er. And for those that hike, 14er is kind of a big deal. You know, you're up over the tree line, you're at 14,000 plus feet, it's hard to breathe, blah, blah, blah. And there's this mountain out there, and we had a family vacation after a wedding. So my 2 daughters and my other son couldn't go because he had to watch his twins. But the 3 of us, along with their spouses, headed up the mountain one morning. And it was fun, but it was brutally hard. And there wasn't that many of us on the mountain. And the weather was sunny, but it was these gale force winds, and the wind chill was probably in the 20s. And of course, I wasn't appropriately dressed. That's a different story. But anyhow, as I'm walking up this mountain and I'm gasping for air, and part of me is annoyed that I'm actually doing this thing. Cause I'm like, I could just be down at, 9,000 feet and enjoying life at this point in time. But I'm watching my 2 kids. My one kid dropped back a little bit, but I'm watching my other 2 kids, and they're like jackrabbits going up this thing, and they're young. But I got to the top, and I was grateful for their support. My face was frozen when I got to the top. I couldn't talk. My daughter thought I was having a stroke. And I said, no, I'm fine. I just had a hawk. My hands were numb because I didn't have any gloves. And so I had thankfully, an extra layer of clothes in my backpack. So I put it on, and then immediately we started walking down the mountain, and
Easier going down.
my face unfroze, and I could speak again. But as I was going down the mountain, I just remembered that statement again: discipline equals freedom. And for me, obviously I care a lot about health, and I've been an advocate of exercise for a long period of time in my life. And at my age, I was grateful that I had the discipline enough, because then I could make this choice to either go up this mountain or not go up the mountain. And there's very few of us that could get up this mountain and back down, no matter what age you are. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the discipline that you have in your life. So then it comes to seed oils and food in general. It's the same thing. Do you want to have choices in your life later on that you could choose now to fix, so you're not in a situation later on where those choices have been taken away from you?
That is such a great point.
If we go travel, for example, you see these giant buses with all the tourists are in the buses. They drive up to the thing, they get out, take their pictures, they walk around for a little while, and then they leave. Well, I don't want to be in a bus, right?
Yeah.
I want to actually ride a bike up to that venue. I want to walk around for as long as I want, not have some bus driver tell me time to get back on the bus. So it's the same thing, but certain people can't do that because they're of age and they didn't have the discipline in the past to be able to make those choices now. And those are people actually that have some choices because they could actually travel. A lot of people are so unhealthy, they can't even travel anymore. So now they have to get on TV and watch, what does Greece look like? Or what does France look like?
Oh, that's
right?
so true. Yeah.
As opposed to being able to actually do that themselves. Right. So that's what I took from that. And that's why I'm grateful that I still have choices. And I would encourage all of you, especially around this whole food thing and this health thing, to really think about the fact, can you be disciplined, to walk away from dining out, let's say 10 times a week, and only dining out 3 times a week? Can you cook your meals for your kids instead of just outsourcing that to, the school or to Uber Eats or to whomever? Because I do think if you can become a little bit more disciplined with those things, then I think you're going to be better off in life. Now, the negative part of me not following through for my discipline on the 50 cups piece of it, is, I wasn't disciplined enough on the retail side of the business. And, as a result, that added a lot of stress, created a lot of anxiety for not only me, but my staff over time. And, lesson learned there, if I look back on it now, we could have done really well, but I just wasn't disciplined enough and didn't have the desire to, really make retail work. And that's why I've shifted to online at this point in time. So, no matter what in your life, you're not going to be brutally disciplined in everything that you do. Hopefully you can be in most cases, but look at those little things that, whether it may not have anything to do with health. It may be finance. It may be, the extra drink on the weekend. It may be your job, but whatever it is, really focus on, am I actually disciplined in what I'm doing right now? Because if you are, then you'll be able to have choices, a new job, a new boss, a new career, a new investment, whatever that may be.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. It gives you that carrot at the end of the stick, so to speak. Sometimes discipline isn't very fun, whether it's eating right or quitting smoking, and knowing that ultimately it gives you a choice rather than, if I get out of the recliner, who should I have someone get it for me? You would like a plethora of choices, and I can see where the discipline gives you just that.
Yeah, the other thing too, a simple thing, I'd advise you to watch the Red Zone on Sunday for football. That way you can get all the games and there's no commercials, as opposed to sitting around for 3 hours waiting for one game.
That is good. And then you can munch on those $50 potato chips.
Exactly.
Right? That would be awesome.
And the dry roasted peanuts.
That's right. Hey, do they taste the same? Have you bought a bag yet?
Yeah, they pretty much taste the same.
They do.
Yeah.
See, I knew you would have bought a $50 bag. I knew it.
No. I didn't buy the chips. No. I'm talking about the cashews and the peanuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
They taste the
see,
same.
you aren't disciplined.
The chips, they should taste like gold, whatever gold tastes like. If it's $50 for 2 4-ounce bags. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, since we just have a quick pause, the tea is delicious.
Okay. No seed oil.
It's no seed oil. And it's actually, and the warm version versus the cold, it's delightful. It really is. I'm really enjoying it. We're on kind of a food thing here a little bit. I see baby food, and what could be bad with baby food? I mean, who would try to kill a baby, Jim, with bad baby food? So it can't be that. What is it? You have a favorite baby food you want to talk about? Favorite memory of baby food?
So I have
I have no idea what you want to do with
I have 2 grandkids right now, and thankfully their parents they're also very into health and feed their kids very little processed food at this point in time. But I've talked about this not in podcasts before, but as a newborn, the goal is to obviously have that newborn grow, brain health, physical health, et cetera, heart health, the whole deal. And what is it in our food industry, especially on the baby food industry, has been, highly commoditized, in the last, 50 to 100 years. Even when I was a kid, I ate baby food, right?
Right.
That little jar, the glass jar.
Yes.
Sometimes in a plastic jar, which is worse for you than the glass jar. So I started looking into it, and the amount of chemicals, and I'm trying to find it here because I had it and it disappeared on my.
That's right. So
the
they
amount
have
of chemicals
in
in baby
now.
food is unbelievable that our little toddlers are getting. And so Gerber, for example, has a natural apple product now that there's this independent nonprofit out there called cleanlabelproject.org, and they rate all the baby foods. And they'll rate beverages. They'll also rate cleaning and food and health and fitness and other ingredients as well. But so if you get this clean label, and I will say that I've not done a ton of research on the Clean Label Project nonprofits. I don't know where they're getting their funding from, but if you look at just the website, for example, there are certain labels that you probably have to pay for it, but you'll get a label that says basically your stuff is pretty clean.
Okay.
So this one product is clean for the most part. It's got apples in it, and it has water in it, and it has ascorbic acid, vitamin C. And I'm thinking, okay, vitamin C, that's good for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, let me look up ascorbic acid.
I knew you would look it up. And now I know there's a but to this.
And
go ahead.
It's first of all, it's manufactured. 70% of the ascorbic acid in the world is manufactured in China.
Oh, great.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, yes, ascorbic acid is synthetic vitamin C, but it's derived from corn.
Okay.
All right. So the question then becomes, well, is the corn organic or is it industrialized corn? Right.
Right.
Corporate farming, for example. My guess is if China's making 70% of the ascorbic acid in the world, then it's probably being mass produced, shipped over to China to be processed and converted into absorbic acid, which then gets popped back into our vitamins, or popped back into, in this case, some baby food. And so we're even this one little label, that's one little natural product that's labeled clean by this company, technically one could argue is probably not 100% clean, right?
Right. I agree with that.
So then they have this graph basically that shows what they found in baby food, and 70% of that baby food had aluminum in it. 30% had cadmium in it. I think 20% had bromide in it. I mean, these are all not good for you chemicals that are in the baby food.
Those are FDA.
Well,
Well, Jim, I mean, seriously, you know it's not good. Surely we're talking about babies.
I know.
Babies.
I know. Our little kids.
I mean, it's not like an 8-year-old guy you're trying to knock off. It's a baby. They should start off healthy.
I agree.
And even I know those items are dangerous.
But the sad thing is, when a parent who's diligent out there that goes to buy the most natural baby food possible, it's still going to be, in all cases that I've found, at least so far, and I've not scoured every single shelf everywhere, but there's still going to be something in there that's out of a lab that's being processed. And that's unfair to our kids.
Well, it is. You know, I grew up very naively trusting that we had these government agencies, for instance, like the FDA, that was essentially created to protect the consumer from things like this. Mom and dad, everyday mom and dads can't, I don't think they can take it upon themselves to police it. They're going to have to, but where do you find the time to police everything you eat? And then we're not even talking about the medical field where the kids are subjected to vaccines and all kinds of other things. For people who are watching, they probably saw I just deflated when you started going down the list of stuff in baby food. And I feel kind of helpless. I don't really know what the average guy can do, except listen to your podcast and Ira T.
I mean, that's what's so ridiculous about this whole thing. That's why I get so worked up sometimes, is you literally have to be vigilant every minute of every single day based on what you care about. So if I care about health in this case, then I got to, whatever I do, I gotta do research on what's going to go into my body. Who wants to do that, right?
And who's capable of doing it?
Right. It is if you're a working class family, where you got mom and dad both working to get ahead and to support their family, and there's 3 kids, and they're busy all day long, and they got homework, and they got, shuttle kids to practice, and, the food part of it's probably the last thing they're going to think about, because they're trusting.
Yes.
They were trusting that whatever they're buying is actually, it's labeled as good for you, when in reality, it's not. And, so now you got to be, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever donated to a cause.
Sure.
And you love this cause, you think it's great. And then suddenly you find out that half your money is going to the CEO's pocket, or it's going to another part of the cause that is actually something you're against.
Right.
And you feel violated. You feel like, wait a second, I thought I was saving whales. It turns out, half the whales are being slaughtered so the oil can go into sunscreen.
Into baby food.
I'm making it up. So you feel violated. It's the same thing with food. You feel like you got to be on your game 24/7, and it's frustrating. And to your point, why isn't our regulatory bodies protecting us?
Or get rid of them. Get rid of them, and let's just go for it. And eventually you'll catch on. But you know this. The average American reads at an 8th grade level. All right, and it's not their fault. That's just the way it is. And there's another 50 million who read at a 3rd grade level. How do you expect those individuals to pick up a bottle or a jar of anything and look at the words? I can't pronounce the words, and do research. And I think the industry and maybe the government realize that and take advantage of that. Is that just because I'm a cynic, or are you feeling the same way?
No, I think it's true. And I think, as I said earlier too, in our country, the FDA just simply has to prove that it doesn't harm you in the ounces or the amount you're getting per serving, whatever that mythical serving is, right? So when you get a bag of potato chips, for example, and it says, oh, they're only 170 calories. Well, the serving size isn't the bag. It's like 4 chips.
It is,
right?
yes.
So that's the only thing they have to prove. Now in Europe, you actually have to prove that it's good for you when it goes into your body.
I think
And
that's a
it
better
also
way to-
doesn't do harm.
That's a
And
pretty
that's a
good way.
big difference between the European body and our body. And that's why people in Europe are, for the most part, more healthy than they are here.
Well, and you pointed it out in the earlier hot take on the seed oils. I mean, it may be good in one serving, but it's in everything. I mean,
Correct.
do they factor that in? I don't know that they do. So in essence, they're kind of a useless body right now. They're really not providing the kind of information that average mom and dad need.
Yeah. So if you're a kid, you get fed a bowl of Cheerios in the morning, you got your seed oils,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe you got a little side honey bun, you get more seed oils. Go to school, mom kisses you goodbye, and you go to lunch over there, and that's let's say it's some kind of Mexican, lunch, or it's a cheeseburger, or it's pizza. Bang, you got more seed oils,
Right.
right? And then let's say you're coming home from soccer practice, your parents don't have enough time to cook you dinner, so we're going to get Chipotle and bring it in tonight, thinking you're eating healthy, and you've just been loaded up with probably 30 to 1 seed oil omega-6s to omega-3s. And you do that 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, you're assaulting your body. You're killing yourself.
And I don't know what to say about that other than it's frightening when you finally realize what's going on. I mean, I guess when I found out the food pyramid was just a joke, At the time, I remember as a kid, well, it's the government, it's the food pyramid. Again, it comes back to trust. And I think one thing I've learned from you is don't trust anybody. You're
Yeah.
going to have to take it upon yourself or
Yeah.
move to Montana and something like that. Get a farm and hunt and live
So,
off the grid or something.
I do think there's hope, though.
I hope so.
Because I think this Maha movement, I suggest you follow it. It's not political. It's simply, hey, it's an awakening. It's what we're talking about today are like on thousands of steroids. I mean, they are a force, and it's going to get bigger and bigger over time. And I think people are going to start taking back their health,
I
going
hope so.
forward.
It'll be interesting to see if they get pushback and who it's from.
They will.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be fighting big pharma and big food. So
Sure.
there's definitely going to get pushback. But eventually, if people stop buying the products, big food will change, right? Because they want to
Exactly.
make money at the end of the day.
That's right.
And, if their Cheerios sit on the shelf and they're not making money, they're going to change the ingredients. So,
All right.
so that's positive.
It is
Right.
positive.
We're moving in the right direction. I'm very confident. I believe in the American people. We're going to do great, and hopefully they'll buy some tea at some point in time.
I'll drink to that.
But yeah, I was in Montana a few weeks ago for a wedding, and it was in Bozeman actually. And wedding was great time with the family, all that good stuff. Weather was good. It rained a little bit, but that was fine. Anyhow, on Sunday, my wife and I go to church along with my son, and it was phenomenal. Not because the church service was great, but I don't even know what the homily was that day because I was too busy looking at everybody else in the church. First of all, it was
Really?
crowded.
Yes,
I felt really good because some churches nobody goes to anymore.
that's true.
But secondly, it was loaded at 8:00 in the morning with families, with young parents, with 3 to 4 kids a pop, not one. It was loud. Kids were crying every once in a while. Kids were climbing all over their parents. Like, it was great entertainment for me. I love to see kids. But I just felt like reinvigorated. I felt like, wow, we're having kids, we're having families, we're going to church. And I think no matter what you believe, whether you're a believer or you're not a believer, you need to have some type of grounding in your life. And the fact that these people were having families and, they were together, they were worshiping together. They probably went to breakfast afterwards together. hopefully not to a restaurant, but it just felt great. And I just felt like, man, this is
The way it
a
used to be.
microcosm of society. And I don't want to go back to where we were because I think we always progress.
Right.
But there are certain tenets you have to have no matter what
That's right.
time of life you've lived in the past. And, obviously the family is probably the most important part of, us being a great society. And if we don't have that, then we're not gonna make it. And it was good to see that.
That and having some core values, in this case, the church itself. And again, whether you believe or not is entirely up to you. But to see that people have embraced that, because I've been to a lot of other churches that people have just fallen away. And someday maybe we can talk about it. But it's you don't feel inspired, do you, when you're going to a half-empty church and it's filled with people who really need to go to church because they're kind of at the end of the journey, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, old people.
Yeah, a bunch of old
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was like, I felt like I was like in a time warp in a way, but I knew I wasn't. But it was just great to see, the crowd and the types of people that were there that day. So
Well,
I'm rejuvenated.
Good.
I think we're on this health movement, and
Maybe
think-
there's an awakening, Jim,
I think
taking
so.
place.
I
Yeah.
think so. I'm very optimistic, and I think if we just simply stay away from the big cities, I think the rest of the country is moving in a different direction at this point in time.
Well, I hope so. And, I guess there's really only one final thing I'd like to know is the tea's delicious, but for people who are listening and watching, how would they get a glass of this delicious tea? How would they do that?
Well, they can just go to 50cupstea.com and order away. Free shipping, over $40. I promise you, I will be disciplined to revise the website tonight because we usually have a monthly special. Last month, we gave a Kinto teapot away, which is great for loose leaf tea. So stay tuned on what the surprise will be for September.
And no seed oil.
October, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And no seed oils. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. As
All from the
always.
earth.
I love the tea and I love your hot takes. Absolutely love them. I appreciate you including me. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Bill. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us on Hot Takes 50 Cups. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to visit our website at 50cupstea.com for more great content and delicious organic teas, and listen and watch us on all the leading platforms. Stay connected with us on Instagram at 50cupstea, YouTube, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends. Until next time, keep sipping and stay united.